Can you imagine that in just one moment a friendship built over years could break apart? Did Donald Trump just take a decision that might push Modi away from America? Is India now looking for new friends? Russia, China, and those countries it once kept a distance from? Is this 25% tariff just a matter of business? Or is it a sign of something much deeper? Here's a political storm. Today's story isn't just about policies and trade. It's about the emotions of every person who once saw hope in India. His America's bond, and now that very hope has been crushed. There was a time when world leaders said Modi and Trump are a unique pair. In Houston, people chanted "Howdy Modi," and in the streets of Delhi, Namaste, Trump banners were shining bright. His millions of hearts were filled with the hope that India and America would walk hand in hand toward a better tomorrow. Science, technology, trade, his defense in every field. Their partnership was growing stronger. But today, one cold, calculated decision casts a shadow on this relationship. Donald Trump has an imposive 25% tariff on India. It's not just a number, it's a messaging. From now on, we think only of our own benefit. Narendra Modi, the leader many called the silent lion, stayed quiet, but his eyes held anger. See, a betrayal from a friend he once called a strategic partner. Modi didn't speak much, but every step he took after that showed he had already chosen a new path. Now India has shifted its focus toward Russia, where oil is cheaper, toward China, once considered an enemy, but now a business partner. Toward the Middle East, Africa, South America, where new roads are being built. One decision forced Modi to put friendship aside and put the nation first. And when a leader chooses country over alliance, something truly deep has been broken. Think about it, can a tariff, a simple financial rule, really have such a huge impact? But when that 25% burden falls on small Indian businesses, when Indian farmers' goods become too expensive in American markets, when software engineers find it even harder to get into the US, then it's not just a tariff, it's a crack. One that runs from the economy to the heart. And when India's leader feels it's time to carve our own way, then it's no longer business. It becomes a political earthquake. Ramesh, a small exporter from Punjab, used to send gloves to America. Now his exports have stopped. Sheila, an IT engineer from Bangalore, was dreaming of an H-1B visa. That dream is now slipping away. There are thousands like them whose hopes have been crushed by this 25%. But the most painful part, the people who believed that America was India's true friend, now simply say, looks like we were alone in that friendship. Did Donald Trump think the India he's ignoring today might soon form strong alliances with Russia? That same India may buy defense systems from France and Israel instead of the US. That same India which America once called a pillar of Asia has now turned its back. Politics isn't just a game of votes. It's a relationship built on trust, and when that trust is broken, the distance begins to grow. Today, America has risked losing a trusted friend. So now the big question is, will this friendship ever return? Will Modi and Trump ever smile together again? Or will this just be another story remembered like an old memory in history? Do you think India and America should work together again? Or is it time for India to walk its own path with Russia, China, and the rest of the world? Once friendship meant more than shaking hands. It meant connecting hearts. And when the heart breaks, it's not just relationships. Entire paths change. Modi's silent anger, Trump's tough decision, India's new direction. This is a turning point, a point where global politics is shifting right before our eyes. Now the world is watching. Which direction will India take? And America, was it worth losing a loyal friend over temporary gain? This decision will shock you. This story will touch your heart. So I ask you this, when a friendship breaks, does a new path begin? Or are we left with only silence? And when a friendship breaks, it's not just the heart that shatters. The direction of an entire nation changes. Modi, with a heavy heart, made a decision. We will now look toward those who never turned their backs on us in hard times. The first hand was extended toward Russia, a country that has always stood by India. When the world tried to stop India from becoming a nuclear power, Russia said, "We stand with you." Today, that trust has been reborn. India gets affordable oil, defense deals are signed, and an old friendship finds a new meaning. Then India turned toward the Middle East. UAE, Saudi Arabia, countries once seen only as oil suppliers, are now trusted partners in trade and technology. Indian brands now shine in Dubai's malls, and India's hard work is bearing fruit on Arab soil once again. Africa, too, is walking with India. Where Europe once exploited, India has built hospitals, schools, and hope. And today, African leaders say, India is not just a partner now. It is our brother. And the most surprising turn, even with China, a new thread is being woven. Where once there was tension, now there is trade. His soldiers may stand at the borders, but deals are being made in the markets. This is wisdom, where emotions step aside and national interest leads the way. India has shown the world we don't need to beg. If friendship isn't offered, we'll carve our own path. Today, India is rising as a leader. Within BRICS, it stands strong in the global south. And at the G20, while everyone looked to America, India held its own seat and said, "We will unite the world, but we will bow to no one." And this is not just a story of politics. This is the story of crores of Indians who dream of a nation that walks with its head held high. A country that never bows, never follows blindly, but builds its own road. So when America imposed a 25% tariff, India picked up 100% self-respect. And today the world watches in awe. The India once known only for software is now a rising power in diplomacy, defense, and development. So the question isn't what Trump did. The real question is, will he ever realize that the India he chose to ignore has now become the game changer of the world? And to everyone watching this, a humble request. If you believe that India should continue walking this path of dignity, strength, and self-determination, then share this story. Because this isn't just about one country. It's about anyone who has ever been broken but chose to rise again by believing in themselves. So ask yourself, when a friendship breaks, does life end? Or is it in that heartbreak that a new India is born? They promised us friendship. They stood in our stadiums, waved at our people, held our flag, and then they turned their back on us. When Trump imposed a 25% tariff on India, it wasn't just a business move. It was a slap on the face of trust. A friendship we thought was growing suddenly felt like a lie. And then what happened next broke every Indian heart even more. The same America, the same Trump who once said, "India is our strongest ally," is now opening his arms to Pakistan. Pakistan, a country known for breeding terror, a country that sent bullets across our borders, that sheltered the killers of our soldiers, and still denies justice. And yet today, Trump calls them a partner. He praises their role in peace. He talks trade, diplomacy, and even lifting restrictions. Then what were we, Mr. Trump? Just a photo op, just a handshake for your crowd. Was Howdy Modi just a political stunt to gain Indian, American votes? Because today, the people of India feel cheated, not by war, not by poverty, but by something much deeper, broken trust. We remember your words, Mr. Trump. We love India. Modi is a great friend. We stand together. And today we watch as you stand with the very nation that has spilled Indian blood. And you ask us to trust you again. We are not fools. You sold us dreams, made promises, took our markets, took our people's admiration, and in return gave us betrayal. And today the youth of India, the farmers, the small traders, the IT professionals, they're not angry. They're hurt. We welcomed you like a guest, and you left us like we meant nothing. India doesn't need a friend who holds our hand on stage, but shakes hands with our enemies behind closed doors. The people of India are not just watching. They are remembering. They are remembering how America turned its back, not once, but again and again. In 1971, during the Bangladesh War, after the 1998 nuclear tests, and now you talk about make America great again. We say, make India strong alone. We will walk with those who value loyalty. We will trade with those who respect our borders, our soldiers, our sweat. Russia stood by us. France helped us. Even countries like UAE and Egypt showed more loyalty than you did. So no, this isn't anger. It's awakening. Because a true friend doesn't count dollars before trust. A true friend doesn't walk away the moment deals become difficult. And a true friend doesn't call your enemy a partner. To every Indian watching this, we may be heartbroken today, but we are not broken. Our friendship was real. Their promises were fake. And now the people of India say, thank you, America, for showing your true face. We will never forget, but we will move forward stronger, wiser. And never dependent again. Can you imagine what it feels like when a friend you trusted starts counting profit over promises? There's a silence in that moment. Not the kind of silence you hear in a quiet room. But the kind that fills your chest when someone you believed in decides you're no longer useful, unless you bring gain. When friendship turns into profit, loyalty dies in silence. That's not just a line, it's a wound, a truth soaked in history, in memory, in betrayal. India extended its hand to America not as a beggar, but as a partner, not for charity, but for collaboration. We opened our markets. Gave opportunities to foreign investors, signed deals, made concessions. We welcomed leaders with garlands, with speeches, with roaring crowds. And in those cheers and those smiles was the silent belief of 1 billion people. This friendship is real, but then something shifted. Trade wasn't enough. Respect wasn't mutual. And one day that same hand that we once shook in friendship pressed down with a 25% tariff. It's easy to call it policy. It's easy to say it's just business. But tell that to the small Indian farmer whose goods now can't compete. Tell that to the local textile merchant whose exports just became unaffordable. Tell that to the hopeful student whose dream job abroad now feels away because economic doors are slowly closing. You see, loyalty doesn't break loudly. It breaks in stages. It breaks when decisions are made without warning. It breaks when leaders look the other way, pretending the friendship was never deep. It breaks when respect is replaced with numbers and human connection is replaced with calculation. India is not an RV. We know diplomacy has no permanent friends, only permanent interests. But even in the harshest truths of geopolitics, there is a line. A sacred line where loyalty holds value. And that line was crossed the moment profit was chosen over partnership. The moment we realized that we were never seen as equals, only as a market, a vote bank, a temporary advantage. And the worst part, we didn't scream. We didn't break alliances publicly. We didn't shout betrayal. We went silent because in India, when the heart breaks, the voice doesn't always rise. It withdraws, it remembers, it reflects, and it never forgets. There is a strange kind of pain in that silence. The kind where you don't know whether to feel angry or ashamed. Ashamed for believing too deeply in words that were never meant to last. Ashamed for thinking that friendship was mutual when it was always conditional. And as we watched America turn its favor toward those who have spilled Indian blood, as we saw warm handshakes with nations that have harbored our enemies, we didn't feel rage. We felt cold realization. This was never about us. It was always about gain. It was always about control. And the day gain stopped, so did the smiles. But the silence in which loyalty died, that was the moment something far more powerful awoke. Because when a nation feels used, when its heart breaks in the quiet, when its people see the truth without needing it shouted, they do not collapse, they rise. But not with vengeance, with vision, with clarity, with new resolve. Because the greatest tragedy is not when an enemy attacks, it's when a friend forgets your worth. And in that forgetting, something dies that can never be rebuilt in the same way again. Not with words, not with deals, not with handshakes. Only time will speak now. Have you ever felt what it's like to be left behind by someone you believed would walk beside you? That feeling doesn't come like a storm. It arrives quietly. It slips into your chest when you realize that someone you trusted simply turned away. Not because you changed, but because they never really intended to stay. India didn't walk away from America. America walked from India's trust. Let that sink in. Because that's not just a sentence. That's the sound of something sacred being lost. Not trade, not policy, but belief. Belief that two democracies could build something stronger than deals. Something built on respect. Belief that shared values meant shared futures. Belief that when a partner says strategic ally, they mean more than just temporary gain. For years, India stood steady in its commitment to America. We stood by them in global forums. We supported their industries, welcomed their companies, gave space to their voice on our land. When they needed tech support, our engineers stepped up. When they wanted a partner in Asia, we raised our hand, not with fear, but with faith. We didn't need to beg for friendship. We offered it freely. And in return, we expected nothing more than honesty and respect. But what we received was silence. When we needed clarity, dismissiveness. When we needed dialogue, tariffs. When we needed trust. And when Donald Trump signed a 25% blow into trade, it wasn't just goods that were targeted. It was faith. It was the idea that we mattered, not because of how much we buy or sell, but because of how deeply we believe in fairness. People in India didn't cry out in protest. They didn't chant in anger. They paused. They watched. And in that pause, the truth became painfully clear. America had taken the exit. They walked out of the room of trust quietly, as if no one would notice. But oh, we did, because trust doesn't vanish in one act. It erodes slowly through ignored calls, through changed tones, through decisions made without consultation. It was in the way friendship became strategy, and strategy became convenience, and convenience became abandonment. And while India stood still, loyal waiting, America chose a different path. They began shaking hands with those who have betrayed us. They offered smiles to those who gave us sorrow. They began calling our enemy partner. And in doing so, they didn't just reject diplomacy. They insulted memory. The memory of our sacrifices, of our support, of the belief that friendship was not just a word, but a responsibility. Imagine the heartbreak of a nation, not because trade became difficult, but because it became clear we were only useful when profitable and disposable when not. The pain isn't in losing a deal. It's in realizing that the one you called a friend never saw you as anything more than a convenience. We didn't walk away from that friendship. We didn't turn our backs. We stayed at the table. We waited. We listened. And then in one quiet moment, we realized we were the only one still there. That moment, it cuts deeper than sanctions or speeches, because betrayal, when it comes from a stranger, is easier to ignore. But betrayal from someone you trusted, that's what lingers in every household, in every workplace. People felt it not through headlines, but in their hearts. The student who dreamed of working in Silicon Valley. The trader who built business ties overseas. The common man who believed in a future shaped by shared strength. They all felt it. And still we didn't shout. We didn't slam doors. Because India is not loud in its grief. It absorbs. It reflects. And then it remembers. We remember who stood with us when it mattered. We remember who walked away when we needed them to stay. And we remember who called us a friend, only to prove otherwise. Have you ever reached out in hope only to be met with a closed fist? That moment when your heart offers connection and in return receives a blow. It stays with you. It changes how you see the world and how you trust again. We offered hands of hope, but received fists of tariffs. That's what India did. We extended our hands not out of weakness, but out of belief. Belief that friendship between nations isn't a transaction. Belief that mutual respect could exist across oceans and ideologies. Belief that when two great democracies shake hands, they aren't just signing deals, they're shaping history. When Prime Minister Modi stood in America and Donald Trump stood beside him, we saw something powerful. Two nations, two leaders, two legacies. The crowd cheered. The words rang loud. The world's oldest democracy and the world's largest democracy. Together, unstoppable. And for a moment, we believed that this wasn't just performance. We believed this was the beginning of something real. But belief is fragile. It doesn't take words to break it. Sometimes all it takes is a single stroke, a pen, a policy, a tariff. A decision made behind closed doors with no explanation, just impact. When Donald Trump imposed a 25% tariff on Indian goods, it wasn't just metal and cotton and spices he taxed. He taxed trust. He put a price tag on loyalty, and that cost wasn't paid in dollars. It was paid in disappointment. India had always stood firm, not as a client, not as a dependent, but as a partner. We didn't come asking for favors. We came with strength, with stability, with vision, and most importantly, with trust. We gave America access to our markets, to our talent, to our goodwill. We built bridges. We opened dialogues. We stood beside them when it was easier not to. We believed in the idea that global power can be shared without domination. That respect isn't demanded, it's exchanged. But when the time came to reciprocate, we didn't get a conversation. We got conditions. We didn't receive a gesture of solidarity. We received a financial blow dressed up as policy. You can call it economics. You can explain it with graphs and growth charts. But you can't ignore the emotional cost. Because behind every shipment affected by that tariff is a human being. A small business owner in Gujarat who suddenly couldn't compete. A factory worker in Tamil Nadu who lost hours, then wages. A young entrepreneur in Bangalore whose product now feels unwelcome abroad. These aren't numbers. These are people. And they are the ones who now look at the West not with admiration, but with questions. What happened to the promises? What happened to the shared dreams? What happened to the warmth in the handshake? That handshake, it meant something to us. Because India doesn't reach out lightly. We are a proud nation. A nation with wounds that taught us caution, and wisdom that taught us dignity. When we offer our hand, it comes with history behind it. And when that hand is hurt, it doesn't just pull back, it remembers. And now we remember. We remember how quickly strategic partner became strategic pressure. How the handshake turned into a grip. How a moment of unity turned into a series of silent withdrawals. And still, we didn't respond with anger. We didn't match tariff for tariff. Blow for blow. Because India doesn't trade in threats. We trade in trust. But even trust has a limit. When fists are raised in the name of trade, when every gesture of goodwill is met with suspicion, when policy becomes punishment, then we are forced to ask, was the friendship ever real? Because we came with hope. We came with vision. We came with an open heart. And we were met not with welcome, but with walls. And now we stand at the edge of a new chapter. Not because we wanted to walk away, but because we were pushed.